I'm 95 years old, and I once believed I had plenty of time until life proved me wrong. When you're young, time feels endless. A single summer seems to last forever. School years feel like an eternity. Birthdays arrive slowly, and every New Year's Day feels like the beginning of countless opportunities. You imagine there's always another tomorrow waiting patiently for you, another weekend to visit your parents, another vacation to take, another chance to apologize, another moment to tell someone how much they mean to you. Without realizing it, you begin treating time as if it were an unlimited resource. But time never makes promises. It quietly keeps moving while we're busy believing we'll catch up later. One ordinary day slips into another, and before long, those tomorrows you've been saving become yesterday. When I was 20, 95 felt impossible. Yet somehow, here I am. Time slipped away one ordinary day at a time. No one notices time leaving because it rarely arrives with dramatic endings. There isn't a loud announcement telling you, this is the last Christmas you'll celebrate with your grandparents. No voice whispers that this afternoon will be the final time your child reaches for your hand before deciding they're too old to hold it. You never know when you've had your last family dinner where everyone is present, your last carefree laugh with an old friend, or your final conversation with someone you love. That's the quiet cruelty of time. It doesn't steal everything at once. It borrows tiny pieces of your life so gently that you hardly notice they're gone until all you have left are memories. And memories, no matter how precious, can never replace another moment together. The greatest mistake isn't believing life is short. It's believing there's always more of it waiting. If I could return to my younger years for just one day, I wouldn't spend it chasing success or worrying about tomorrow. I'd sit longer with my parents. I'd laugh harder with my friends. I'd watch one more sunset without checking the time. Because after 95 years, I've learned that life isn't measured by how many years you receive, but by how many moments you truly live before they're gone. I'm 95 years old, and I've learned this. Most people don't lose life to tragedy. They lose it to ordinary days they thought would return. When I was young, I thought life would begin after I graduated. Then I believed it would begin after I found the right job. Later, I told myself it would truly begin after I earned more money, bought a house, raised my children, paid off my debts, and finally retired. Every chapter of my life was spent waiting for the next one. I kept telling myself, things will get better soon. But soon has a dangerous way of becoming years. While I was busy preparing for a future that always seemed just around the corner, life was quietly happening in the present. The ordinary mornings, the family dinners, the unexpected laughs, and the peaceful evenings I rushed through were not interruptions to life. They were life itself. I simply didn't recognize it until those moments had already become memories. I spent years chasing a better tomorrow. Without realizing, I was sacrificing a beautiful today. One of the greatest lies we tell ourselves is, I'll have time later. Later I'll travel. Later I'll call my brother. Later I'll take care of my health. Later I'll learn to play the piano. Later I'll forgive. Later I'll rest. But life has no agreement with the word later. Sometimes later becomes too late. Opportunities don't always return. Parents grow older. Friends move away. Children become adults before you notice. Your own body changes without asking your permission. The dreams you once carried so proudly begin collecting dust because every day you choose responsibilities over possibilities. Responsibilities are important, but if they consume your entire life, you may one day realize you survived beautifully but forgot to truly live. Success means very little if you arrive there alone. I met people who built successful companies but hardly knew their own children. I met wealthy men who could buy almost anything except another conversation with their parents. I met women who spent decades trying to create the perfect life while forgetting to enjoy the imperfect one they already had. They simply believed there would always be more time. That's how the best years quietly disappear, not through disaster, but through delay. Were the happiest years you ever had. I'm 95 years old, and the hardest lesson I learned is this. The best parts of life disappear so quietly. Time doesn't send warnings before it changes your life. One day your children ask you to carry them because their little legs are tired. Then, without you noticing when it happened, they're taller than you, building lives of their own. The toys that once covered your living room disappear into dusty boxes. The laughter echoing through the hallway becomes phone calls that grow shorter each year. You spend so much of parenthood believing the busy days will never end, only to discover one morning that the house is silent. The mess you used to complain about becomes something you secretly miss. It isn't the noise you remember. It was the feeling of being needed. I wish someone had told me that ordinary moments become priceless the moment they become memories. Time quietly changes the people we love too. One day your parents seem strong enough to solve every problem in the world. Then you notice your father's hair turning gray, your mother's hands becoming more fragile, and their steps growing slower. You promise yourself you'll visit next weekend because this weekend is busy. But weekends become months, and months become years. Then one day, you're standing in a quiet room, wishing for just 5 more minutes to hear their voices again. No amount of success, wealth, or achievement can buy another conversation with someone you've lost. That's why love should never be postponed. The people who matter most deserve your time while they can still share it with you. And then, time comes for something we rarely think about while we're young. It quietly begins taking pieces of us. Your body changes so gradually that you hardly notice it. The stairs become a little steeper. Your eyesight grows weaker. Names that once came effortlessly suddenly take a moment to remember. You begin walking more slowly, not because you're in a hurry anymore, but because you've learned that every step matters. Yet the greatest loss isn't physical strength. It's realizing that the people you wanted to share your memories with are no longer here to remember them with you. Time doesn't simply take away youth. It takes away familiar voices, favorite places, old traditions, and eventually entire chapters of your life. That's why every ordinary day is more valuable than it seems. One day, today's routine will become yesterday's treasure. I'm 95 years old, and time taught me this. Tomorrow is never guaranteed. If I could go back and speak to the young woman I once was, I wouldn't tell her how to become richer or more successful. I would tell her to slow down, to stay a little longer after family dinners, to laugh without worrying about unfinished work waiting at home, to take more photographs, not because pictures stop time, but because one day they'll remind you of faces you desperately wish you could see again. I would tell her to stop postponing joy until life became perfect. The truth is, perfection never arrives. Life is happening in the middle of the unfinished chores, the noisy children, the messy kitchen, the ordinary weekends, and the quiet mornings. Those moments don't feel extraordinary while you're living them, but one day they'll become the memories your heart returns to again and again. For years, I believed happiness was waiting somewhere ahead. I never realized it had been walking beside me all along. People spend so much of their lives counting what they don't have that they forget to notice everything they already do. We chase larger homes while overlooking the warmth inside the one we have. We work longer hours, hoping to provide a better future, yet we miss the bedtime stories our children will never ask us to read again. We wait for retirement to travel, for weekends to relax, for special occasions to express our love. But life isn't made of milestones, it's made of Tuesdays, ordinary breakfasts, unexpected conversations, quiet walks, and small acts of kindness. Those simple moments are the true treasures of a lifetime. By the time we realize that many of them have already slipped quietly into the past. So let me ask you something. If today became a memory tomorrow, would you be proud of how you lived it? Don't wait for a diagnosis to appreciate your health. Don't wait for an empty chair at the dinner table to appreciate your family. Don't wait until someone is gone to tell them how deeply they're loved. Make the phone call you've been postponing. Forgive the person you've carried in your heart for too long. Watch the sunset without looking at your phone. Sit beside your parents a little longer. Hug your children one more time. Tell your partner thank you for the ordinary things they do every day. Life doesn't ask us to be perfect. It only asks us to be present before the moment quietly becomes a memory.